And we're live. Hey, folks, it's Meeting of the Minds, and we got John Malin, Terry Mayo. I am saying it right, correct?
Oh
It
yeah,
is.
yeah.
All right.
It's like mayonnaise. Yeah.
Okay. Timothy Lim, and of course, Dollar Bins and Sporkman. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Groovy.
Doing great. Good.
Yeah.
All right. So, like I said, tonight we're doing something different. We're going to let Dollar be the one asking the interview questions. So, of course, a lot of it's mainly aimed at Terry, which before we let him get into that, I gotta say, Terry, went looking for the Wicked Righteous at my LCS. All they had was issue 6. I still picked it up, and oh my god, I gotta read the first 5 now. It was really good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah. If you can find the other 5 out in the wild somewhere, then more power to you. I think they might have been sold out, but if not, you can get them online somewhere. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, well, it was the last alternate book that they even had in stock. I was just like, yoink, mine! So I had to say, had to let you know that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely. So, Malin, how have you
Yes,
been doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I was basically just wanted to touch base with you. I know you have a few projects that you've been working on. So how's Graveyard Shift starting to build up?
Yeah, there's been a good response so far, and it sounds like a lot of the people in or the comic skate community are really getting behind it. So I'm, feeling pretty good about it. It will definitely not do Jawbreakers numbers, but my goal for raising is somewhere between 10 and 50,000, and if we go above that, then fantastic.
Nice. And Tim, how goes Black Ops?
Black Ops is doing great. So book 2 comes out next week on Wednesday. If you haven't picked up Black Ops issue 1, they're still available online, and I know that Diamond just restocked their warehouses, so you should be able to get it through your LCS. I will say that Black Ops 2, it has an ending that a lot of people have been looking forward to. I think that even bounding into comics, they have an article ready to go about it because it is going to do something fairly major that extends beyond just our franchise. So that'll be an interesting one to pick up. Meanwhile, we have Trump Space Force, and that's doing well as well. And that actually ends next Friday. So if you haven't stopped by to give it a look, it's on Indiegogo right now. Trump Space Force with me, Chuck Dixon, and Brett Smith as our colorist.
All right.
Spoiler: the ending to Black Ops 2 is Graveyard Shift comes in, and the whole thing was really a promo for Graveyard Shift.
I wish. If I had
Great.
known that you were up for that, John, definitely we could have made that happen. That would have that. I know I told you at Bell County Comic Con, if you'll remember, and I'm sure you do. That is the book that Mark and I are the most excited about.
Oh, well,
uh,
thank you.
yeah, that is going to be one heck of a ride.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So yeah, there's been a great response, and Monday we launch at 6 p.m. Eastern. So if anyone's interested, it'll be on Indiegogo.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dollar, time to do your thing, man.
Well, in general, we'll just keep it pretty easy and breezy. We'll start with just an icebreaker question to open up to everybody. So, just growing up, what was your favorite comic book to read, or just in general, your favorite superhero?
Who's going to answer first?
Go ahead, Tim. You got it.
Yeah.
Growing up, my favorite hero. So I had two, Optimus Prime and Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man obviously because I could relate to him as a character since I was definitely kind of a nerd growing up, and so I have kind of this life that parallels or echoes his own, at least from an allegorical sense. And I always liked Optimus Prime because, well, he was a giant robot who turned into a truck. So what's there
Yeah.
not to like? I mean, I just thought that was the coolest thing. So yeah, those two definitely had a profound impact. Later on, I was really big into GI Joe, so I really liked not Spider-Man, Snake Eyes. I think I thought he was the coolest ninja outside of Ninja Turtles. But as a kid growing up, I pretty much liked the people that everyone else liked growing up, at least during the 80s.
Nice. I'll go with Terry next.
I enjoyed reading the What If from Marvel growing up. That was probably my favorite book to pull out. I think I've read pretty much all of them at least 5 or 6 times. And then my favorite character, would I'd have to agree with Tim, would be Spider-Man. I mean, how could you not like Spider-Man?
Yeah. But surprisingly, though, my girlfriend hates Spider-Man. I don't know why.
Oh,
She must not like spiders.
Yeah, she like it's weird. She doesn't like Superman either, and she just like, well, they got the same color scheme. That's all I can really think of. But in general, I'm not sure why, but she hates both of those, really unfairly so.
That's terrible.
It is. No, she's got plenty of redeeming qualities though. But John, how about you though?
Well, I kind of got into comics through cartoons, so probably the earliest superhero was probably Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends for me. And
Nice.
I hate to have the trifecta, but Spider-Man is probably my favorite character. But I think if you ask me on a different day, it could be Wolverine or Batman. I love all the icons really. So, but Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was probably the intro for superheroes for me.
Nice. All right, so let's just move along and just how do you feel in general about the current state of comics at the Big Four? We'll start it off again with Tim.
Well, I think I echoed the sentiments of other people. I think that it's obviously lacking in the department of quality and storytelling, and I think Marvel is the biggest player in that. I've actually been pleasantly surprised with a couple of DC's offerings. I've bought 4 trades in the last month, and they were all really good. So I picked up the original DC Looney Tunes crossover, not from this year, but one from last year, which was fantastic. And I got Super Sons under recommendation of several people, volumes 1 and 2. And I just finished volume 1, almost done with volume 2. And that series is phenomenal. And then Scott Lobdell with Red Hood and the Outlaws, that is just great storytelling. So I think DC is definitely playing it a little bit more professional. And I think that they actually offer a very good helping of works that anyone can pick up and enjoy. Image, I don't know, hit or miss. I haven't really... it's all been misses for me so far, but maybe I just haven't found the right book. And IDW and Dark Horse, IDW, I've actually done quite a bit of work for them, so I'm actually kind of disappointed that they seem to be going down the same rabbit hole that Marvel is going under. And I don't know if it's because of changes in their structuring that took place maybe within the last year or so, or if it's just because they're thinking that that's where your money goes, if that's the direction that they should follow as well. But I do pick up like their Ninja Turtles line, which I enjoy. Mark Pellegrini and I, the only 2 books that we pick up consistently are Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters, which have always been well written and devoid of politics, at least up until this point. So there are some helpings here that are really good, but they need moments to shine. And I think that a lot of these news sites and the companies themselves aren't promoting the books that need to be promoted. If the editors are proud of their work and they know that the end product is of good quality, then I think those need to be pushed out. And I think Richard has touched on it several times, where he'll review a pretty obscure book and he'll be asking himself and the audience, like, why is Marvel not promoting this book over, let's say, a Squirrel Girl or Miss Marvel? And so I think that these companies, regardless of how political they might be, I think that they actually have the opportunity to showcase some of their better works. They just don't. And I think that's where that ideology comes in. So I know that was a pretty broad overview of what I think about that, but I hope other people agree.
Oh, it's good stuff. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll go on to I'll go on to Terry next.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be Tim's echo, but since I'm going to follow after him, I guess I'm going to have to be. But I agree with a lot of what he's saying. Growing up, I always made mine Marvel, and I pretty much never touched on DC except every once in a while. But most of the books that I picked up, and I really only pick up trades nowadays, but most of the books I pick up have been DC. IDW. I know a few people from there, and I try to stay as loyal as I can. But Image, There, like you said, there's been more misses for me lately than there have been home runs, but I try to pick up everything I can, and just been a little bit of disappointment in what I've been picking up.
Yeah, yeah. And there's certainly there's a lot of stuff that I'm still enjoying coming out of Marvel, but overall, there's just kind of a dark cloud right now over the good things that I'm finding just by the overall decisions with some of the IPs. It's certainly it leaves a little much to be desired right now.
Ain't that the truth? Like, it's just sad because these companies at one time were powerhouses, especially Marvel. Almost, I don't think there's really anyone who at one time would believe that Marvel would be in the dire straits it's in now.
Yeah, yeah. There is there's the nice little shining jewels still in the lineup. Like I'm enjoying Venom and Cable. I mean, that's certainly just there's some stuff that's still giving me hope, and I guess I'm more cautiously optimistic for the future. But John, would you like to add anything?
Oh, I'm glad there's one person in here cautiously optimistic for the future. I'm not. So, look, Image Comics, I set that aside. To a large degree, I view Image Comics as, I worked at Image Central, full disclosure, but I see Image Comics as being a hub for independent voices, and they can be wacky, batty, shitty, whatever. Let them have it. I'd rather they have a home, and there be somebody out there putting out whatever types of messages they're putting out, even the ones that I disagree with. IDW, they're more of trying. I mean, I think they would highly wish that they were Marvel or DC. So I would kind of wrap them into that, where they're trying to create their own IPs. So I'll kind of bundle those three together. But primarily, my concerns are Marvel and DC. And it's a train wreck. It's terrible what's going on there. It's still happening, and somebody has to put the kibosh on the whole thing here. Basically, they never got over the elections, so there's enough bitter people in these companies that they're able to steer these corporations into their ideologies. It's sad, it's disgusting, but you have DC brought in Zoe Quinn of all people. Now think of this. Zoe Quinn is one of the SJWs that preaches white privilege and all these other things. Where were her comic book qualifications? Did she or did she not take a position that could have been filled by her own SJW argument of a person of color? So what I see is a lot of white SJWs getting these jobs, claiming white privilege, and then they get the benefits. So as long as you protest white privilege, you can take advantage of all the benefits that your quote white privilege gives you. Now, me personally, myself, I don't give a shit. But I do believe you should always give it to the best person for the job. Zoe Quinn is not a comic book fan, and she got the keys to the kingdom through Vertigo to launch a project. Same with the other guy. I think his name is Rob Sheridan. I think he did art for Nine Inch Nails, like some cover art, and then they threw him on as a writer of a book. So another SJW, another guy screaming about white privilege, and the first one to hop through the door and take a job from a qualified person of color, which I guarantee there are qualified people of color who have worked their entire lives to break into these industries one way or another. And then you have these two white people coming in there claiming about white privilege and just squeaking right by them all. And nobody sees the hypocrisy in that. Nobody sees the bullshit. And then you throw in somebody like Zoe Quinn, who is a complete political divider. So that means that the company is really doubling down on the whole SJW bullshit. So you can kiss a good portion of what could have been your audience goodbye right away, because there's going to be very few conservatives throwing their money at a Zoe Quinn Vertigo title. Marvel, on the other hand, is complete trash fire. There's so many people that need to be removed from editorial positions. It's a joke. Sana Amina has to get out of there. She's had anti-white bias on her Twitter feed. Look, it's Marvel Comics. They don't even know what it is anymore. Sana Amina declared it's a lifestyle brand, and they're trying to push a food channel now. I mean, come on. CB Sobalski, big old CB Sobalski, who all he talks about is food, becomes the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, a publishing house. And their first big announcement on, I think, the Today Show is that they're a lifestyle brand, and then they push out a cooking show. They don't even know what they are anymore. They're complete garbage. So these people need to get out of there, and there needs to be new people coming in that have a clear mission statement about we are going to sell these books to everyone across political spectrums. We are going to bring in freelancers across political spectrums. And look, I mean, it may have to come to the point to you need to plant your flag so hard. I mean, you can name, 50, 100 hardcore leftists in the comic book industry, but you cannot find a single hardcore Donald Trump supporter working openly in these companies. So let's find somebody like Ethan Van Sciver getting into one of these companies, preferably like an editor-in-chief position. So you want to start making some moves before all these local comic shops die. I am not optimistic about what's going on for the local comic shops at all. It's a nightmare. And you have complete incompetent people running these companies and allowing these decisions to be made and not even considering. Because, I mean, you only bring in Zoe Quinn. You only allow that to happen because you really think that Zoe Quinn, what is she? Is she Alan Moore? Is she the undiscovered Alan Moore? No, they're trying to bring in her audience, and that's it. They're trying to bring in the SJW audience to take care of all the customers that have left because of these political divides.
All while failing to acknowledge the fact that most of them don't buy comics.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're going to sit there and cater to a group of people who don't buy comics, who most of them will torrent comics or torrent, it's like I got watching a Yellow Flash video earlier where he's talking about Battlefield 5, and he presented a valid point. He's like, these people don't buy comics. They don't buy the games. Why are we catering towards them when we should be catering towards the people who have been here since we were kids and, basically learned how to read, through comic books and whatnot, because we wanted to be able to read our comics.
You cater to where the dollars are at. That's all you do. You cater to where the dollars are at. And once you've seen that the dollars are slipping away, you have to change direction. But if you double down, triple down, quadruple down, you get to where you're at now. I mean, what Comicsgate is it's grown, it's blown up because it's all disgruntled fans. It's fans that are tired of the professional behavior of the editors through social media, of the freelancers through social media, of the treatment of the characters through the books. I mean, they have put their political views front and center in every avenue of where they're at. They're so easy to identify, and these companies have done nothing to change direction or to correct these people. Which goes back to even to where one editor said, make no mistake, if you voted for Trump, we will remember who you are. And this was a Marvel editor. She still works there to this day. Her senior editor knows 100% about it, and nothing is going to happen because I had a conversation with him about it, and he said I was punching down, even though she was my editor.
Right. And it's funny how, you get told you're punching down when your boss is literally making just as stupid.
Look, it's a joke. It's a nightmare of a joke. These people put on this facade that they know what's going on. They have they work there. They have the marketing departments, but they can't motivate the marketing departments. They can't bring out the good ideas anymore. They're frauds. They're all frauds from top to bottom. CB Sobalski was who's editor in chief at Marvel right now. his biggest claim to fame in the early 2000s was going over the Marvel Mangaverse. He was brought in, from my understanding, because he was the guy that was like bringing over a lot of manga into the U.S. market. But look, when you know that Akira is selling very well, that's the one you bring over. When you know any one of these larger manga projects are doing very well, those are the ones you bring over. It doesn't take a genius to look at the numbers, see what's successful, and then try it in other markets. But here he is. He gets put into Marvel. He gets put in charge of this Mangaverse. The only thing where he should have had every last possibility of just producing the most excellent manga line. And all he ever figured out was that, hey, you put on some pointy chins, you get some big eyes, and then you wrap it in a Spider-Man garb, boom, you got Marvel manga. No, that is not what manga is. That is not what attracts people to manga at all. And he failed. He failed in the one area where he should have excelled. This is the guy who's editor-in-chief now. Not to mention that he misled the company back then, which is arguably a level of fraud when what is my understanding, this is all alleged, that there was a Marvel policy in place that editors were not supposed to be writing books. So he came up with a false persona or a pseudonym and convinced some of the other editors to give him work under the pseudonym. And some of these editors may have been intentionally doing this back and forth. So it could have been almost like conspiracy level fraud, defrauding a company. If these allegations are true, then yeah, I mean, what are you guys doing? Who are you rewarding? Who are you promoting? Where's the adult in the room anymore?
Oh, they got rid of the adult. That's the problem. They got rid of the adult. See, as bad as it sounds, if Stanley was still in, large control of the company, we know none of this shit would be happening. Stanley would be looking at the numbers and going, all of you are fired. And Stan doesn't like to be that guy, but he would be. At that moment, he'd be like, all of you are fired because you're all incompetent and you're all costing the company money.
Well, Abbey Arad would be the same way, too. He basically was forced out after the bankruptcy and them farming all their IP out. So, yeah, so Marvel's whole line of management changed for the most part.
Very true. But anyway, Dala. Next question.
Oh, you want me to do the questions?
Well, you are the questions guy.
I don't really have many more questions. In general, what do you see? I'll just open this up to everybody. What do you see as the future going forward? Let's start with the bunny president.
Well, I'm not a very good what's the word for it? Prognosticator for what's gonna happen. I can only speak to I guess what I either would like to see happen or what I think would be ideal. So I do like the crowdfunding model, but the only way that I think it can have long-term impact or success is if it goes more like the European model, which is like bande dessinée. So in France, if you're an illustrator and you have a creative team, typically you put out basically one book a year, and it's an album, basically a graphic novel. And that's your bread and butter. And after you get paid and it gets published, you're just working on the next volume to come out the year after. So you do pay a heavy price, but the customer gets a bigger book, and it's only one thing that the creative team can work on, and they can focus on that. And once that's out the door, they're already working on the second one. So it's basically like a movie where it's just one movie a year that they're grinding out. I think at least, from my perspective, I would like to see that happen. I know that before we went live, I was talking about the Black Ops brand that Mark and I want to focus more on. And that's essentially what we're going to do. We're basically, I think from this point on, rather than do floppies, we're just going to focus on making 80 to 110 page graphic novels and just funding those and just doing that once a year. We think that in the long run, it's easier on the pocketbooks of people because they can try and spend $3 a book every month and keep up with it, or they can spend $20 and just get the full story all at once. And just from my perspective, I collect mostly trades, and I like that. I like being able to kind of just give money and just get a full run of something. I'm a lot more forgiving because in that run, maybe pages 20 through 30 aren't that great, but the rest of the book is. I'm obviously going to be more forgiving of that because I have a full story that I can look at. So I think as far as the crowdfunding model is concerned, I know that as far as my trajectory, that's what I'm going to be doing. I think that I don't know about Richard or John, and I think John will come up next in terms of who's going to answer that. But I think that as far as us trying to use Indiegogo as a viable platform, I think that that's where things are going to go. Now, things could change. I mean, if the industry, does turn around or performs a magic pirouette and decides to correct course, then maybe you can see longevity. But at this point where they're heading right now, it's like the Titanic heading for the iceberg. I don't know. I'm like John. I don't really have optimism as far as the business side is concerned. Even if they were to switch tomorrow and change all of their practices, might be too late. I mean, you see all these comic book stores closing, and you have a lot of fans who aren't even paying attention to comics anymore. They've moved on to other hobbies because they felt like it was a hobby that's been dead to them. So it might actually be too late. But as far as the people who are trying to do independent works and use that as a sustainable model for success, I think that that's where it is going to go.
Yeah. Terry, how do you feel about just in general the sustainability of these campaigns going forward? Like, there's a lot of good stuff going on with these crowdfunding campaigns. My main worry, I guess, is that with the amount that are coming out of the woodwork right now, is the market going to get oversaturated? Even though the books are good, is anything really run the risk of not getting as much exposure?
Yeah, no, that's the one thing I did notice, because I'm doing a crowdfunding right now, and it's the first one I've ever done, and I had to be pushed tooth and nail into doing it, but I did it, and it's funded, but at the same time, it's not something that I think I'd be comfortable doing multiple times or over and over again, and a large part of that is just because it is so saturated and there is so much out there, and at some point even the good books are being overlooked, I feel like, because I've seen a lot of projects on there that I'm like, how is this thing only like 10% funded with 2 days left? And I don't know if it's a combination of just poor marketing, poor promoting, or if it just, is white noise. I'm as far as like the comic book stores and whatnot, my heart goes out to them. I've had a lot of friends whose businesses have gone under in the last couple of years, and I'm the most apolitical person you'll probably find, but there's definitely truth in a lot of what's being said as far as the reasons why. It's sad, but I most of my stuff is I fund myself, I do myself, and I think after this Kickstarter that I'm doing right now, that's probably the way I'm going to go back to it.
Yeah, and that's really all we can do moving forward. There's, I guess, in general, and this is just not necessarily a question, but just an open thought to everybody. Like, there's a certain level of raging against the machine that's going on here, and I can appreciate that, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to change, just in the way that not only the creator fan interaction, but just the way that comic books are being distributed and marked up in price, and just all these little things that need to change. But there's certainly I think an oversaturation right now of the negativity of everything that's happening, and that could be better served promoting all of these projects. But it's a tough tightrope to walk.
Negativity is a sign of passion. So you need to be passionate to move these books. You need to have a fire in you to move these books. You need to have a promoter, and promoting / marketing. That is a reason why many crowdfunders will not reach certain goals. Look, you need to build up a YouTube presence. Everyone does. You cannot rely on Richard, Ethan, or anyone else with higher sub counts. Everyone has to build out their own fan base. And once you've hit a certain point, I recommend 50 to 60,000. I believe you will always be able to, so long as you are passionate and you have an energized subscriber base, you will be able to monetize 5% of those people at, say, a $25 tier. But look, you have to hire good talent. Not just good, but great. If you want to reach for the gold ring or the brass ring, you got to put it all on the line. And if you're not putting it all on the line, look, I mean, you can get a top name that used to work for Marvel or DC that does not work there anymore. I used an example before, just because I used this example before. You know, when I was younger, I remember liking just this kind of off the wall guy, whatever, Samuel Clark Hallbarker, and he drew really great women. But look, if Samuel Clark Hallbarker is out there and you can find him, you get him to draw a book with a woman on it, and you don't have to pay for 22 pages. You don't have to pay for 50 pages. You pay for 6 really good pages, and then you get a really good colorist to go over top of it, whatever. But that's not a big investment in your future. If you're trying to reach the pinnacle of what you can do, if you got that subscriber base, that's half of the reason for an artist to sign on with you. Because look, I might be wasting my time doing 5 pages for you, but at least I'm getting paid for those 5 pages and I don't have a big commitment. But should the campaign take off, then I'm going to be able to, you're going to be able to bring that artist along. You're going to have him fully paid. You're going to have the colorist fully paid, everything fully paid. And then you start making your profit. But you have to not just settle for the guy with the cheap page rate. You have to go with the guys who can bring along a fan base if you really want to do it. Now, I'm not saying not to use young, new talent and stuff like that, but I'm saying as someone trying to build a business, you gotta bring the best that you can bring. And with that subscriber base, you can grow that and you can become more and more successful. And as far as what Tim was saying about the future of crowdfunding, largely I agree. Look, I would love it if it's like everyone put out, 1 book a year type deal, and with the promise that this 1 book a year, be it, I mean, I really don't care, 48 pages, 100 pages, 200 pages, whatever you are comfortable in offering and what your fan base will back is what you should do. But look, you should do it with the promise that this is going to be, again, the pinnacle. It's the best of your art possible. It's the best of your story possible. I don't believe there's oversaturation. I believe we're at the very bottom of what this market is going to be. When you can pull 3,000 backers on a project, look, there's 6 billion people in the world. Look, the internet, YouTube is the doorway into comics. And we have people on Jawbreakers who never bought a comic. And we have people Jawbreakers brought in almost 10,000 people, 10,000 backers. So I guarantee you there's been bleed down going into these smaller titles to help lift them up. So rising tide raises all ships. And we're at the bottom of the market, guys. We're not at the top of the market. This isn't where it ends. This is where it starts. So, but we have to get our head in the game. We have to understand, look, we have to run everything just like a business. Don't burn your fans. Be kind, be respectful. Deliver on time. Do your absolute best to deliver on time. And with even Graveyard Shift, I'm not trying to just deliver on time, but I'm trying to deliver early. So the book is done, it's drawn. I'm trying to get a 16-page backup story done. But look, I'm going to try to get this bad boy. I want it to be the first, quote, Comicsgate project to come out early. And, I think I'll be able to do it. So I'm going to set a realistic time frame for delivery. I'm going to give time for any kind of hiccup to happen. And look, when the hiccup doesn't happen, I deliver early. Don't just plan right down to the wire. People will give you an extra month or 2 to deliver, but they want it to be delivered on the right time. And you have to plan for your artists to get sick, your colorists to get sick. You have to put in these buffer times. So once you put those in and you deliver early, you're going to help the entire community, because everyone's going to see this book delivered early, that book delivered early. Not just, oh, it missed it by a month, it missed it by 2 months. We have to do a lot better than that, guys. So extend your deadlines. Go a little farther than you have to, and deliver early, because everybody's going to respect you and love everybody that much more. So the future of crowdfunding, I think, is fantastic. Again, there's 6 billion people in the world. YouTube is the gateway. And I'm trying to work on a project right now, which is outside of our community. But look, I'm trying to widen the audience as best as I can to get comics in the hands of people who never bought a comic in their life. And hopefully some of these people come back into the Comicsgate community or the crowdfunding community, whatever you want to call this. I think Comicsgate is the phoenix, the beginning of the phoenix rising from the ashes of the comic book industry. And what we all span out to as we go on, I mean, it'll be hard to define. But Comicsgate is the beginning. We're the ones that figured out, look, get your YouTube channels going, build your audiences, whatever you cover. You don't have to cover comics. You don't have to cover whatever. But once you built that audience, regardless of what you do, it doesn't have to be comics. It could be video games, card games, anything. You will be able to, so long as you are passionate, your excitement will excite, your fan base, and you will be able to monetize that. And they will be happy, and you will be happy, and everybody will keep on going. And look, yeah, if you come out with a project a year, they're going to back it. As long as they believe in you, as long as they believe you're excited about it, everything's going to work out great for everybody. Right now, I think when people worry about saturation and stuff like that, look, there's going to be books that do not make, Jawbreakers, Cyberfrog. I expect Graveyard Shift to go somewhere between 10 and 50,000 raves. I think that's a reasonable expectation. Again, if it goes beyond, awesome. But we have to do what we have to do, and we're going to have to take whatever kind of hits we take. Even Graveyard Shift, it could come out and it could crash and burn and not even hit its first goal. Don't know. But look, I don't have a platform. I don't have 60,000 subscribers. So, I'm working to talk to as many people as I can through live streams like this to get the word out about Graveyard Shift and other projects. Like there's, I think Ferryman is still out, and that's one of the smaller ones. Jack Irons, I did a cover, or not Jack Irons, Flying Sparks, I did a cover for that. Jack Irons I think they still have a store running. So yeah, you can go and back all these smaller projects, and it'll be great for them. It'll be great for everyone. Look, but buy what you like. If the person is not offering you art that interests you, if the story does not tickle your fancy, you're not going to back every single Comicsgate project. But to the guys who are working really hard to sell you something, to show you something that they're passionate about, yeah, guys, that's where I'm going to go. So I backed Cyberfrog because I think it looks fantastic. I bought Red Rooster because I love the Batman in a barn pitch. So, this is what it takes for me. Just like I'm going to comic shops, guys, and sometimes I walk out, I don't buy anything. I'm just a customer.
Yeah, but kind of need to move on real quick. If you do have a time limit. Dollar, next question.
I didn't really have too many other questions. If you want to maybe open it up to the chat or
All right.
Yeah.
The folks get your questions in. We'll be asking them. Is there anything that any of y'all, like Terry, Tim, that y'all have?
No, but just as John Malin was finishing there, he brought up a really good point, and I think this is something I should have addressed last night on Edwin Boyette's channel, but a lot of people were asking about Indiegogo campaigns and what their advice would be, and John and I are kind of in the same boat where we don't have our own individual platforms. Mark and I have started a YouTube channel, and honestly, it's a lot of time and work to put into it, and so we just don't have the time to devote, because uploading a video is a lot more time consuming than one thing. So, just having to sit there and wait for the upload by itself is a lot of time, and if you're going to put a lot of production into it, that's more effort. So one thing that I think has happened kind of organically is just by talking to people in our network. For example, the Ferryman with Sean Campbell or Flying Sparks with John Della Rose. You have these guys who In the case of John De La Rose, he came to me, and even though we're friends, he was like, "Hey, I would really want you to work on something for me as a stretch goal." And I said, "Well, why me?" And he said, "Well, I have a pretty big platform with science fiction, but I don't have a platform with comics. And between the two of us, I feel like you have a bigger platform. So I'm willing to spend the money on you just so that basically if you do this for me, it's almost like advertising." And it's smart. I encourage everyone. I think that's the number one piece of advice I gave to people. Like, I know Nasser Rabadi, if he's in here right now listening, I know that's one piece of advice I gave him. I said that the best thing you can do with getting your project out the door is, if you don't have a platform, the project has to look good. So I recommend saving the money and either hiring an artist for your full run or an artist to work on a perk that will grab people's attention. Because if you can hire someone like a John Malin to do your cover, or hire someone like a Kelsey Channon to do a pinup, that's a lot. It tells the person who is potentially backing, whoa, these people are serious about this. They got so-and-so to work on their project. And yeah, it might sting a little bit because you're paying this artist anywhere between $250 to $1,000, depending on who they are. But still, what you could potentially reap as a reward in terms of how people are going to look at this and back it can go a long way. So that's something that I would recommend. And I'm just saying that because that's one thing that John and I have in common, is that he and I both don't have platforms. We've worked on some pretty big projects, but that's different than having a pulpit 24/7.
Yeah, we have fans. But if you want to reach the big numbers, you have to have that major platform. You have to build it. And right now it's YouTube. In the future, it could be a different thing, but right now it's YouTube. I fully 100% believe that.
Yeah, I'm kind of late to the whole game with all of this. Like, I just made my YouTube channel maybe a month ago, and, and it was just so I could promote the video that went along with the crowdfunding. And a lot of this comes in because I've heard some people that prefer Indiegogo over Kickstarter, and again, that was new to me. I had no clue. So I mean, I feel like I did my homework, but there's just this whole underlying thing that I just ignored. I mean,
it's the classic carnival barker method. You have to have someone as your front man to bring people in to see the show, and that's what these YouTube channels are. And you can always tell who the best carnival barker is because you look at their subscription count. If they have 60,000, they built that audience because they're entertaining and people like them. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the trick to the whole thing. So you can look at any YouTube channels, and I suggest this for artists. Approach these people with big subscriber counts, and if they have any kind of crossover with the comic book industry, offer that YouTube personality to write the book. And then you draw the book, and then you guys come up with an agreement on the pay, and that's mutually beneficial. And look, I mean, PewDiePie has, I think it's 64 million subscribers. So look, I got him in my sights too. So look, I mean, that's how we're going to build this industry, and that's what I'm saying, guys. We are in the bottom of it. So we are the beginning of the wave here. So if you make all the right moves that you can make now, you can get a leg up on everybody. So, open your mind and try to think about how to do comics a little bit differently than what we've, learned over 30 years. We don't ride on our names. We ride on people who built actual fan subscriber counts.
Oh, yeah. And question from Midnight Cherry TV: is there any chance John will do an alternate cover for Tim's next project, Cash Grab?
He might.
I'm still trying to figure out if that's a real project. Is that real or not?
No, it's completely real.
Okay.
I'll be honest, when Nurkish and Cecil approached me, I thought they were just kidding. So here's what I thought was going to happen. I thought they were going to come up with art, like show 5 pages, but it was 5 pages for a comic that doesn't exist. Basically just you doing that whole thing that you see a lot of panhandlers do, where it's like they hold signs up that say need beer money, or ninjas killed my parents, need money for kung fu lessons. It's just a really funny way of getting money from people, but they're serious. I mean, it is a real book. So I'll be doing the main story, and then they're going to be hiring a few people for their stretch goals. But John, if you want to do something for them, and if they're listening right now, I think they'd be over the moon. So would you? I mean, would you want to work on a cover or a stretch goal?
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it. Yeah, so Cecil's in my messages pretty often, and Nurkish I see from time to time. They can reach out to me. That's fine.
Yeah, you have to be comfortable with drawing balls. Well, I'm serious, but okay.
I will actually echo what you're saying there, John. That's one of the reasons why I started my channel too, was to give platform to people like Terry, you, and Tim as a way to introduce your projects. Because I know you guys got things going on, everybody's busy, and me as a smaller creator, I'm like, hey, I got this. I can give them that platform. But I agree with 100%. It's even essential, even with me as a creator. I needed something to promote my own work on too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That right now, that's the future, guys. It's the immediate future. I don't know what it'll be in 5-10 years because the internet and all social media evolves. But yeah, I mean, that's why I got on with Jawbreakers. When I weighed everything, I said, well, he has 60,000 subscribers. Let's find out what we can actually do if we put out a product that we give it our all. And I guessed that we could do 5, and we ended up doing about 7% at the end of 30 days. So we raised 190 in 30 days with about 4,700 backers. And but that was it. I looked at his subscriber count. So that's the bait to get in an artist and say, look, if we do this, it could be realistic. So when you have 60,000 subscribers, put that in your pitch. So.
Oh yeah, and Friendly Neighborhood Ninja asks, how do I set up a decent Patreon page? Like, any advice on that and whatnot?
That's going to be a question for Terry and John. I don't have a Patreon.
Yeah, no, I don't have a Patreon either. I keep getting asked if I'm ever going to open one, and I just, it's not something I see in my future, immediate future at least. So I turf it over to John.
Yeah, I have one. It's Mortal Enemy, by the way, if anyone wants to go in there and toss in a buck. But yeah, it depends on what your topic is going to be. Is it comics? Is it music? I can only tell you what I did, and yeah, it does okay. It's an all right little extra bit of income, and interact regularly with whoever you put on there, and have good whatever. I don't remember if they're called tiers or not in there, but have good tiers. And yeah, I mean, it can be a good supplemental income, especially for artists. So yeah, if you're a writer, just work a regular job.
What would you recommend as far as your Patreon is concerned? Because I'm honestly not familiar with the way artists do it, but is it like they give you money and then one of the things that you have is like free wallpapers, or for higher tier backers, it's like original art? Is that kind of what you would suggest?
Yeah. I mean, look, some artists, they just draw. If you're that guy, then yeah, monetize it. Put in a tier where you're giving people sketches or whatever. I have a tier which is for original commissions, but you have like the $1 tier, which lets everybody see basically everything that you post. I have a $10 tier, which is for high-res downloads for anything that I put up there. One a month, full color. Well, unless there's a black and white, doing something arty farty. But yeah, you keep your prices low. $1, $5, $10, for the most part, is probably the best way to go. So my original, I have a $50 tier, but at the end of 6 months, I use that as prepay for a convention or for a commission, like full actual art on board being sent to their house. So at the end of 6 months, they're like, I paid $300. So that's not bad at all. And it keeps me with some regular income. But I just keep whittling that down because I mean, it becomes when like right now I've ended up having 5 or 6 all crash on me right in August. So, that's some of the work that I've been trying to get done before I launch Graveyard Shift. So, and I'll have everything in like half stage of being completed. So, but yeah, I'm trying to whittle that down. So keep your stuff small, and whatever you can do, just regular kind of updates on, keep people posted on what's going on. Kind of treat your updates almost like, hey, here's maybe my diary kind of type deal. And, I mean, you would be doing better than I would. So, because for me, it's another thing I have to do, and it becomes a bit of a drain, but it's not bad as supplemental income.
Well, that's good to know. I know right now I don't think that's something that I could do. I just have too much on my plate. But I'm sure that for artists who are listening out there who are thinking about it, that sounds like something you should definitely pull the trigger on.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And apparently that's all the questions from chat for the time being. But comments, though. Let's see, it'd be feasible to have a product ready to ship within the first week of this is the question. Would it be feasible to have a product ready to ship within the first week of a Indiegogo or a Kickstarter ending?
Wait, what?
It was kind of hard to hear you.
He was asking if it would be possible to ship a product within the first week of a Kickstarter or Indiegogo ending.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends.
Yeah, it would be difficult because, look, you got to know how many orders you have, Look, if we would have went with Jawbreakers, if we would have pre-printed Jawbreakers and had it all ready to go 1 week before or 1 week after the campaign would have closed after 30 days, we would have had pre-printed. Richard originally had the goal set, I think, at like $5,000. So maybe we would have had pre-print 500 to 1,000 copies. And so if you ship to China, that's a 6 to 8 week turnaround time. So we would have had to have the book finished way in advance, with the books pretty much in hand in order to ship 1 week later out to customers. And then we would have found out that we had 4,700 backers. So for a certain product, I think it's probably possible. And it's definitely possible if you limit what you can make. But you don't want to limit something at 10,000 and print 10,000 and then find out you've only raised enough for 500.
So. Yeah, that would suck.
Mm-hmm. Caveat on that, and this is something I really suggest. I mean, you definitely have to have some stuff done to show what you have done. You know what I mean? Like John said, the 5 pages, or you can't go into it with nothing.
Absolutely.
In my opinion. You go in with anything. I mean, look, give an example. With our next Kickstarter, we have the artwork done. It's because we've already released our comic done. We're just now coloring and relettering it. So, that's a caveat already done. But having at least 5 pages colored, lettered, or whatever is the smart thing to do. You got to have something.
Yeah, and for anyone that didn't pay attention to how Jawbreakers went out, look, Richard was going to make this happen regardless of funding or not. I think he even had it at a flexible goal. So we didn't know. We didn't know that it was going to blow right past 5,000 in 5 hours, and maybe less. I think we made like $1,000 every 15 minutes when that launched. I mean, it was crazy. And but that's not me bragging. That's me saying this is the power of a major platform underneath you once you've energized your base. But oh shit, what was I getting at? What was it you were just saying?
No, you got to have something done. You can't go into it with nothing.
How we launched. So Richard was going to do this one way or another. So when we launched, we had, I think, like 5, maybe 6 pages. They were fully drawn, fully colored. But I kept going. So I had, I think, 10 to 15 more pages, or maybe 15 pages in total, like layouts. And he showed every layout in the deal. And as I drew, once the page was finished, he showed the finished black and white. Once they got colored, he updated with the color. I mean, that's what happens when you're committed. If you are going to commit to this project being done one way or another, then have your artists keep rolling during the course of the campaign, because people, I've heard from many people saying that that's one of the things they enjoyed was watching the art go through its progress.
So I actually do have a question for Terry, if you don't mind. Can you give us some information about your project? I did back it. One because of Peter, and second on talking with you. You know, you've been a great person to speak with. So for those who don't know about your project, can you give us some more information?
Sure. Yeah, it was originally released on newsprint about last August, I think, is when it started coming out. It's a 6-issue limited series. Was available in comic shops on a limited basis, of course. And then we released the 6th issue about a couple months ago, and then now we're going for the collected trade. So going into what John was saying, and I think it was you as well, of having something available and ready. I think that is the reason why it was, we reached our backing goal in the first day or two. Was it had that history, it had that stuff saying this is a project that's going to be ready regardless of whether we get backed or not. But the book itself, it's like a dystopian, takes place in San Diego. I guess the tagline that some of the reviewers have given it is that it's like Mad Max meets Breakfast Club type feel to it. We just signed on to do books 7 through 12, so that'll be coming out later this year, early 2019-ish. And we've already started working on that one as well. Yeah, not looking forward to getting into that. We have a couple other things coming out as well, but through different publishers. But Alterna, Peter, they've been great. Have no complaints in that area at all. Yeah.
All right. Like I said, dude, I only was able to find the 6th one, but what I read was amazing. The art was really good. It was one of those, to hear that it's going to be continued is even better. I just now for sure have to get issue 1 through 5 to get completely caught up beforehand.
Yeah, no, and again, the thing with this Kickstarter, it's really helped us to be able to go back and we're billing it as like a remastered director's cut, whatever you want to call it, because we are adding a little bit of extra to each chapter.
Nice.
So it'll be the same story. It's just going to have a little bit of a little fluff in there for you guys.
A little extra meat on its bones, if you will.
A little extra meat.
All right. And let's see. Checking the comments real quick. Ninja says, I'm an artist, so that's a great idea. Thank you so much. Here to John's information about Patreon.
Yeah, if you're an up-and-coming guy, look, I mean, if your family ever believes in you, if you're really trying to get some kind of income coming, you can have them donate. I mean, look at Facebook. That's half of the people on Facebook or more, are family and friends of yours. So, look, if they're going to buy a $15 CD from, Britney Spears, someone who never knew them, never cared about them, then, you might be able to get $5 out of them and say, hey, help me support my dream. So, but you have the entire internet. But I'm just saying there's something you can think about, especially if you're, a very young and eager artist. If you want to start building a career, it doesn't hurt. Say, hey, help me invest in my career. I'm not, especially when you're not throwing out what are 10, 30 grand for college.
Very true. Yeah, Mike, I guess at this point, it's just, we can just have some fun, talk about random things now, movies and whatnot, until we get more questions. So, yeah, did y'all hear about Star Trek 4, though? Like the Kelvin timeline?
No. I don't keep up with Star Trek.
Well, they're trying to get Chris Hemsworth to come back to play Kirk's dad, and apparently not only is he not coming back, but Chris Pine's like, nah, I'm probably not coming back either.
Yeah, they're probably playing hard to get. Negotiations.
Yeah, I don't see how they're gonna have to they would have to recast And honestly, Chris Pine, he is kind of like their main guy. I mean, that's gonna be a tough one. They're gonna have to capitulate to that.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, Anton, oh, what was his name?
Yell it.
Yeah, with his death. I mean, and it's just one of those. So they lost Chekhov anyway. I personally think it's probably a safer bet to just, you know what I mean? Either not even bother with those movies or go back to the main timeline. Even though, from what I understand about the deal, they can't even do the main timeline anymore because CBS will not let them touch it. And yet CBS is doing crappy Discovery that nobody wants.
Well, I'm excited. They're trying to bring a Picard series in, right?
Yeah, but let's be honest. They're probably going to do him like they did Luke Skywalker and just give us a soyed out version of him.
It's possible. It's possible. But I mean, look, you can go through the new generation or the next generation. You know, you can find some stuff that would probably be ringing SJW in there. So I rewatch that stuff semi regularly, and but look, I'd be super excited to see that show. I know they're kind of focusing it on Picard, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing just balloons into one huge new Star Trek with Riker and everybody coming back. So I think if they they got Picard to come back. So if they really wanted to blow people away, everybody, I don't know if they need Wesley, but
well, and Jonathan Frakes isn't really doing much of anything. He's just directing every once in a while. So I'm sure he would probably come back no problem.
Oh yeah. I mean, these guys, everybody would want to see where they're at 20 years, 30 years down the line. I'm sure Picard's going to be like an admiral. I think that's what they did with Kirk. Jonathan Frakes, he's probably well past being a captain at this point.
I think, if I remember right, he was a captain at the beginning of Nemesis.
Oh, yeah. And we're 20 years on now. So maybe 15 years? I don't know. How long ago did Nemesis come out?
About 20 years ago.
Yeah. Wasn't that also, what's his name from Venom? The main guy there?
Yeah, Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Hardy, yeah.
Yeah, Hardy played the clone Picard.
Yep. No, yeah, I mean, that's how I would do it. I mean, that's what I love about a lot of things. Even Kingdom Come, that was like the big draw for me. It was everybody was, hey, let's see what happens with these guys. You can do that with any comic book story, and I think it with good execution, good art, you'd really have a lot of people on board. A company like Marvel doing a whole line like that, would be a good draw for me to find out where everybody's at and run a good storyline out for 5 or 10 years of this whole extended universe. For me, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds exciting. It sounds like we're going to get a lot of new ideas. But yeah, so Data, like what happens with him? Where's he at now? They're not going to be able to cast Brett Spiner as a unaging android. I guess you could always argue that he would age his flesh as a his quest for humanity and not to make anyone feel like he is Pinocchio. So
as long as they don't bring back the season 2 Doctor from TNG, I'll be happy.
Oh, the lady that replaced what's her name?
Crusher.
Yeah. She came off cold.
And she was just a total bitch to Data, so let's be honest. Nobody liked her.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you could bring back Wesley. I mean, even though the actor's Will Wheaton's a little SJW, I think I would still be interested enough in the character to say, where's he at? So he could be like an instructor at a school. That would be okay.
If I remember correctly, in Nemesis, they touched on him as well in the deleted scene. He was working on another ship, actually. He was back in Starfleet and whatnot. Because the whole point of Nemesis is supposed to tie up all the loose ends. Because News. I'm doing another one.
Those movies for me, I haven't watched those movies since they came out. So, I mean, maybe they're loose canon for me. You know, I just go with the show. You can throw out every Star Trek movie, more or less, and it wouldn't bother me at all, except for the original, where the Wrath for Khan and Search for Spock, and Voyage Home was okay, I guess.
The only one that really bothered me out of the original movies, or the original series movies, I should say, was the first one and 5.
Was that Undiscovered Country?
That's 6 is the undiscovered one, I think. 5, I don't even remember what 5 was. Give me a second, I will tell you what 5 is. Because this is need to know information here. Very need to know.
Maybe Voyage Home. No.
The Final Frontier.
What was Undiscovered Country?
That
was that
was
one
6.
of the new ones?
That was 6.
Undiscovered.
It was the one where they started working on setting up the peace between the Klingons and the Federation, and then someone framed Kirk and pretty much what was it? Kirk and the Doctor were pretty much held on that prison planet, the Klingon prison planet. Like 6 was way better. For me, I may not be a big fan of 2. I've always preferred 4 and 6 were my preferred ones, but 2, 3, 4, and 6 are the original series movies that I like. 1 and 5 are just trash.
Yeah, yeah, Voyage Home, that was the time travel, and they go back for the whale sound, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even Tarantino, who's in talks to direct a Star Trek film, he mentioned that if he did one, that basically there's two episodes, and I guess he wasn't a big fan of The Next Generation, but that's what he's interested in doing is the time travel stories, and they were Yesterday's Enterprise, which is where an Enterprise comes from the past, and it changes the timeline to where everybody is in war with, I think it's the Klingons.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is it's from the original series. What was that called? Bones goes crazy and hops into onto a planet and then goes back in time, and they try to get him out. But anyway, those were the 2 big Tarantino ones.
I could see him doing the first one.
See, the Yesterday's Enterprise, that would be interesting because that they would be able to actually tell truly what happened to the Enterprise C. Like, actually show you and tell you. And, let's just be honest, nobody liked Natasha Yar anyway, so, yeah.
Whoa. No, I'm kidding.
Let's be honest, nobody did. It was... If you had to choose between Tasha Yar and Worf, you chose Worf because
to live? Oh yeah, 100%. Worf was great.
Worf was at least competent as well. Like Tasha Yar was always like had to lead with snark or had to have some comment that was unneeded, and it's like you do realize you're supposed to be a Starfleet, officer. You're supposed to not be such whatever. Just go away. We don't want to talk to you about you anymore. Go on the Enterprise C, and we'll give you the character that's supposed to be your daughter, and only talk about it when we have to.
Whatever happened to Lal?
Who?
Data's daughter.
Oh, she died. Remember?
Did she?
Yes.
Yeah, she wasn't that great.
Well, it was one of those. She was something along the lines of like her neural processor couldn't handle it or something like that, where Data's could. Like, I couldn't tell you exactly. I haven't seen that episode in years, but it was still a better story than, you know. Once again, it's still a better story than most of what we get in Discovery.
Yeah, I think if they brought back the idea of Data with in that Picard series, I think what would be really cool is if he has like a whole race of what are type children, but they're instead of looking human, they're kind of like that Kubrick film that Spielberg did, where at the end of it they're all just kind of not a hologram, but this new kind of form of AI type. Well, that was the name of the show, AI, or the movie, AI. And, to where it could just be like a CGI almost type character walking around, or, a person in a motion capture suit. I think that'd be fun. And then you could be like, are they ever going to take over?
Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, anything, once again, is better than Discovery. That's my point.
I haven't seen any of the Discovery stuff, so... I cut the cord, and that's not enough to bring me back. So
right. No, it's one of those. The reason why I hound on how much I hate Discovery, is because of the fact that it was something that was supposed to be all about how we'd move past identity politics and things like that. Like Star Trek in general is all about how we'd move past these things. And then Discovery comes along and focuses on it, and it's like, why are you doing that to my precious Star Trek? It showed that we all could get along. We didn't need these... Aww.
Oh, is it become a big race thing and gender thing in there, or?
Pretty much. Like, and they're not even subtle about it.
Yeah, because that is true that... Well, I don't know what the timeline is, but at least Picard and all that, I mean, I'm sure they've stated that a good handful of times that, a lot of what are bigotry and stuff like that was more or less in the past. I mean, you can find it. You can still find it. Kirk had issues with Klingons, so...
Oh, yeah, but the whole point is like, it's not even the fact that you can find it with the other species. The point I was making is the fact that they'd done it to something that, to me, was one of the few things that showed that we could become better than that.
Yeah. Largely, from the TV series, you'd say, that hope is the main driver. That the future is a lot brighter, and Star Trek of all shows was always diverse. So
they didn't need to play, look at me, we're so diverse, because it was already diverse. It was, you
didn't have to keep stating it. So
but real quick, John, is 7:30 your time or 7:30 our time?
I gotta go in about 15, so I gotta run off with the wife.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because I was kind of confused there for a second. As I was like, wait a second, we're in different time zones. Let me just ask instead of assuming. Is everyone...
I don't know if I can hang for 3 hours, 4 hours. Hey guys, just I can only be here 4 hours.
Right. Real quick, is everyone fine with cutting it a short stream tonight?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Unless we're gonna get into more Star Trek stuff, because that was pretty riveting.
We can.
Look, man, we can go on track for a while.
I mean, I grew up in West Texas, and I grew up on a farm, and all we had was Fox. That's all we could pick up on the antenna. So in the middle of the night, I watched The Next Generation, and then the old Batman. And it was every single night. That's what I'd watch before I went to bed. So, I mean, I've seen them all, but, I wouldn't say I'm a Trekkie by any means.
Yeah, I sound a lot like a Trekkie, but I'm definitely not. But because I cut the cord. I mean, the wife and I, we actually, we have a handful of shows that we kind of just put on when we're going to sleep. So, we always have the TV going in our room, which is, not to brag, it's a 55-incher, so it's a big nightlight. But yeah, so we have Netflix going all the time, and it's either the original Star Wars or Star Trek, or the Next Generation. Just because we've seen them all, it's not something we really need to pay attention to. And or we go off to Father Brown or Midsummer Murders. And when they had Columbo, we were watching a lot of Columbo. So nice. Yeah, so that's pretty much our bag. We love. Well, she likes a lot of like the CSI kind of type shows, but even though I like to draw a lot of gore, when I'm just trying to watch a show or something like that, I like it a little bit more toned down. And Midsummer Murders, Columbo, those are pretty non-grotesque murder shows and detective shows. So
throw in some Matlock and Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah. I think they have Matlock. I don't know if she's watching on Netflix or because we have what are like MeTV, Antenna TV, whatever. So they have a lot of old classics on there. So we sit and we watch some of that stuff too. But yeah, I think Matlock is on TV again, and I think about that too because I'm like, isn't that crazy that if you told all these people that were on these classic shows, I mean, God, from the black and white, I mean, Leave It to Beaver is on every day. And straight through, 60s, 70s, 80s shows, 90s shows, everything's on again. And it's like, if you told these people, Leave It to Beaver, Jerry Mathers, I think his name is, like, hey, man, took him aside when he's doing that show. Look, in 2000, I would assume in 2020, you're still going to be on TV. Like, you'd be like, what? What are you talking about? Like, shows don't last more than like a year or two. Like, not you.
All right.
Yeah, get that contract.
Exactly.
And they all got screwed. But hey, whatever. Who knew?
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, guys. Yeah, great. I'll cut out and head out, and the wife will be happy that we're gonna go leave early for her shopping experience. And but yeah, great talking to you guys.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, John.
Definitely. Nice having you on, John. Hopefully we can have you back on again sometime.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Whatever you have time. Look, I mean, I'm promoting Graveyard Shift for, definitely the next 30 days once we launch. So if you guys just need someone, shoot me a line. I'll probably pop in.
Word. Will do, John.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Later.
Have a good
Bye.
one, John.
And thanks to everyone in the chat. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. So Ninja did ask a question. He did want to see what your guys' opinion were of Indiegogo Kickstarter. What do you felt was a better option?
So just to let people know who might be wondering why there is this kind of debate as to whether or not Kickstarter Indiegogo is better, amongst the pros who are, I guess you could say, air quotes, like Comicsgate, the reason why some of us don't use Kickstarter as our platform is because of recent hiring policies that they've implemented. They have someone who's in charge of actually looking at their comic books now, and basically she acts as a vetter. But if you look at her personal profile on social media, she seems to be very far left. So there's some people who, if they're associated with Comicsgate, or if the politics that the person might have personally conflate with or conflict with this individual, then there's a good chance that you might get the platform. So a lot of people are proactively just going to Indiegogo instead. I will say that using Indiegogo for my first time doing a campaign, it's really easy to use. I was able to set up the whole thing in under 3 hours tops. So even updates and things like that, they have a very good template for using. So as far as people wanting to either change from Kickstarter to Indiegogo or just start off with Indiegogo, I have nothing but good things to say about it. It's been very good as far as a crowdfunding platform is concerned.
And on top of that, for those who don't know, prime example of things that Kickstarter will do is what happened to Blue Mamba with Jim Healis, where he was on there and apparently, Kickstarter themselves decided to pull his project.
Yeah, that's Yeah, it's crazy.
Why did they pull his project? Again, because I'm like a virgin to all of this crowdfunding stuff. Why would
So,
they pull his project?
so his project actually had some questionable art and themes, LBGT themes,
Mm,
and there were a couple scenes. We called the infamous page 3. If you know anything about UK, or you know how they have the page 3 pinup girls and stuff like that.
right.
And so I guess I don't know if that maybe upset them or what. But yeah, I mean, I think they. To me, my view is I think they both serve a purpose. I think for art and comics, I think Indiegogo is better. But like if you're doing like projects like say like something electronic, I think definitely Kickstarter is a better option. You know. And I don't think people shouldn't back projects that are on either one of them. If both platforms have a project that you like, support the project that you like. There might be reasons why that creator took that platform instead of the other one.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, this is my first time, but I have had people like verbalize to me through like DMs and stuff that like, oh, I would love to back the project, but it's if it was on Indiegogo, I would, that kind of thing. And so that was my first taste of that there was even this divide. And then Tim, what you just said, that was the first time I'd heard that too. So maybe I'm just not doing my homework. I don't know. I mean, I have a full-time job and 7 kids, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, a lot of that is just some of it's inside baseball, and a lot of it is flash in the pan, where if you blink, you miss it because they talk about it for like a day and then it goes away. But if you just type in like Kickstarter, I'm trying to think. It's like Kickstarter, new hire, overseeing comics. You can see this person and kind of what their politics are. So if you're not political, I don't think you're going to run into any problem either way. For example, you have people like Blake Northcott, who's really cool. She's definitely friendly towards everyone. It doesn't really matter who you are. And I think she just had a really great campaign on Kickstarter with her new book, Grim Valley Memoir, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And she's fine, but obviously they are going to vet you. They're going to look pretty closely at who you are and what you're trying to do. So I think that certain projects that are obviously apolitical and the creators who are fairly neutral, I think that you could be fine either way you go.
Well, either way, the big problem I have with the fact that they do that in the first place is the fact that it's like, who cares what the politics is? You're a business. You're supposed to be making money. And that's why, to me, the Kickstarter that's going to come back and bite Kickstarter in the ass. Like, take, for instance, Alterna Peter's big thing. He doesn't like politics. That's why I've been, instead of, trying to have our usual where we talk politics tonight, I'm trying to, since Terry's in here, trying to keep things kind of out of the political talk because of the fact that, respect Peter's wishes. He doesn't want politics brought up. He doesn't want his brand associated with politics.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of sad that, a company that makes its entire money off of crowdfunding would be dumb enough to let something as stupid as politics probably end up being what'll take it down.
Yeah, it's that old saying, get woke, go broke. I don't know. It's interesting because so far when we compare platforms, it's not that Indiegogo is like a conservative platform. There isn't really any platform out there outside of, let's say, Gab, and even with Gab, even though they are fairly conservative in their nature, they really don't even care who you are. You can join, regardless of your political stripes. But it's being a dead horse. I have said several times that a lot of these people, to them, even though they get comfortable making the money that they do, and as a result of that, they feel impervious to criticism, which is how you have a company like Disney and you have a trash fire like The Last Jedi, and you might ask yourself, well, these people like money. That's how Disney got to be Disney. Why would they endorse or do something like this? Well, the reality is that they get so big that they feel like we could put anything out there and these people will just eat it. So let's do it. Let's just pull the trigger on it. And then they do. And people complain and they still pay up. But they're so ideologically driven that it'll take them a long time and several disasters in a row before I think someone says something. So as far as like the Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaigns are concerned, I think right now, outside of the Blue Mamba, I don't think you've seen anything like really, really egregious. But I think that will change pretty quickly. All it will take is one person, for example, like someone like me, to do like a Trump comic on Kickstarter just to test the waters, and then bam, it's gone the next day. So I think that's why for people starting their campaigns, go with the trusted one where you know that it's probably not going to happen, which is Indiegogo. They don't seem to care. They just want to make sure you make money and they make money. Plus their rate is pretty good. It's 5% for Indiegogo. That's how much they take. And then it's 3% for credit card processing. So it's about 8% total when you're thinking about your overhead. I think that's actually less than Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken.
BRB, you need to give me more coffee.
Oh, okay. What does everyone want to talk about? I have a few more minutes here, and then I have to go too. But is there anyone? I can't see the chat, so if someone else can, they'll just have to help me out.
Yeah, there's not really much more in chat here. It's kind of Model 3 came in. He's been a big guy supporting getting like action figures. But hey, Tim, I do actually have a question for you. I've been kind of thinking about doing a Sporkman plushie because a lot of people have been kind of liking the idea.
Yeah.
So, so I wanted to know, where did you get your plushies done for a Thump?
So that's a good question. We actually used 3 companies, and we wanted to see which one was the best quality. So we did the 3. We have 3 prototypes, and we ended up going with the one that looked the best. So the one that I use is actually called Adorable World.
Okay, that's one of the companies I was looking at.
Yes, they're good. Now I will tell you something. When you look at the prototype, you're gonna have sticker shock because it's really expensive. I do. The prototype's like $150. Correct. It's $150. Yeah. Now, what the best offer though is to do. Not just the prototype, but if you're going to be doing mass production for Sporkman, and you're going to be making like 50 to 100 of them, I would suggest you take their offer and just pay $350. The $350, it actually goes as credit towards your purchase of more plushes. And so if you end up buying like 100 plushes, then it ends up being like $7 to $10 a plush. So you actually save money in the long run if that's what you're going to do for your campaign. So I would do that. And like I said, that will take away some of the sticker shock, because if you know that you're going to be creating like 50 to 100 Sporkman plushies, paying $350 for that initial prototype, that's $350 that's going to go into the production of the other ones too. So it actually ends up being cheaper. But there's a lot of them. All you have to do is just Google custom plush, and I think the top 3 that we use actually pop up first, and then you just decide on, look at the production photos and see which ones you like. So I've used Adorable World twice already, and I've been really happy with the quality. So I know that one thing we're doing for next year is, because we're more than likely going to crowdfund Black Ops Volume 2. We definitely know that we're going to use them for our Black Ops plushes. I paid that $150, and I think people have seen it, but the plush that they made for me, it's incredible. It's really, really good.
Yeah, because I was looking at I did look at them plushies or Bugsby's or something like that.
Yeah, Bugsy's was the other one that we used.
Bugsy. Now, my only concern with Bugsy's is always like there was like $150 for everyone, and then if you went to if you were doing an individual, like a small run, it was like $150 for all of them. And like if you went to like 10, 20, then they started giving you discounts on it. I'm like, that's a little insane. No one's going to want to pay that for.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a one-off, I think they're all that's an awesome price. If you're just kind of doing this one-off thing,
Right.
But like you said, if you're doing 20, 30, 50, 100 or more, the bulk prices, and I did see it looked like Adorable World seemed to be, out of the companies I was looking at, they seem to have the best pricing structure that I can gauge a little bit.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. Actually, so the Thump plushie, the one that we went with, it's taller, and so we paid like X amount for it.
Mm-hmm.
The USA GI plush is longer because he's actually on all fours. It's actually bigger, so we actually got a better price on it. Based on, they don't judge based on total mass. They charge based on height versus length. So depending on what you're going for, will also determine how much bang for your buck you're gonna get. But we're planning on using them at least one more time for the end of the year. So we're actually planning something with Cash Grab that I think people will like. So I'm actually gonna have to talk to them again. But yeah, Adorable World is good. You just obviously have to have the money for it. But crowdfunding, that's a great thing because people love plush toys. They do. They love them.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I have there's a couple of different options. We're gonna have a limited. We're actually having a limited tier where 5 Sporkman figures are being done. So and we're actually using Boss Fight Studios as blanks to do our custom figures.
Cool. Okay.
So
awesome.
Yeah. So and then I was thinking about running because I was toying around with the idea for a plushie. Everybody's like, "Oh, I want one. Well, should I do it separately?" Then I started looking into it. It was kind of confusing on what the pricing structure was and stuff like that. So it's an idea for food for thought, on what I might do. I might end up doing it. I might end up doing it separately down the road after doing the comic and stuff like that. So.
Well, what I would suggest is, here's the good thing about doing the plushie. The manufacturing and the shipping of it is almost identical to printing and shipping for comics, which is 6 to 8 weeks, which means that at the end of your campaign, at the time that you're sending your files over to get printed for the comic, you can also send in the exact number of people who are going to get the plush. So you have an exact number of plushes you're going to order, and because both orders are going to arrive at the same time, that's great for your fulfillment, because then you can actually send the plush with your comics as well. So I think that's actually what we're going to end up doing, because with Thump, we ran into that. I mean, we were sweating bullets. I think we ordered 500 of those things, and we were thinking to ourselves, "Oh my gosh, what if we don't sell 500 plushes?" And we ended up doing it because we just happened to hit the Christmas season. So we got really fortunate, but we were sitting on those 500, and we were thinking, "Ugh, this is gonna really stink if we can't sell any of these." And we ended up selling all of them, which was great for us. So we know that for future reference, if you have a good brand, a good property, and if you have a good campaign, then you can go through 100 plushes pretty easily. And people, just to be honest, between my wife and I, we do have quite a good plush collection just from a lot of conventions we go to and gifts from friends, and obviously the whole bunny thing. But people love them, and people always ask, what is the price that you would pay for a plush? And I said, that's the interesting thing about plushes. It's not like T-shirts. So for T-shirts, people will pay anywhere between $10 and $30, $30 being the max. People will typically not pay more than $30. But depending on the plush, people will pay pretty big numbers for it. I mean, you have Steiff. Steiff is out of Germany. Their plushes range from $150 to $250 each. And people pay that easily just because of the quality of the material that they use. And I know personally, between my wife and I and some friends of ours, people pay anywhere between $5 to $50 for plushes. So the sky's the limit as far as that's concerned. I think for the Thump plushes, we ended up pricing those at between $35 and $50, and we bundled them with the book too. So that was actually our best seller, was bundling the book with the bunny. People really, really like that.
Cool. All right. So thanks for answering my question. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. No problem.
Terry, did you have any questions for Tim before he goes?
No, I mean, he's got me wanting to build plushes of everything in my book now, but other than that, no.
there's a couple things that because this is our first time meeting with Terry. Mark and I spent more than 8 years in merchandising, so I think that's I give like unsolicited and free advice as far as that's concerned. I would suggest that so T-shirts obviously is like a default one that people tend to like, and ironically, I work for the majority of my time. I worked in T-shirts. I actually don't recommend T-shirts at all. Like I hate it because T-shirts are great, but you have to think of not only ordering the T-shirts, but also the sizes, because everyone's going to be of a different size. XL and double XL and above, you're going to have to pay more. Shipping is also typically pricier, so you're adding that in terms of your book. But
okay.
another thing to consider is, so action figures are really good. I know that we rail on it a lot, but and a lot of people hate it, but pops are very popular, and for good reason. So the one thing I've noticed that people aren't doing that I think they should is create like a custom Funko Pop. You can literally go to Etsy and find people who do that professionally. They do nothing but create custom Funko Pops, and they'll have the packaging and everything to make it look like a Funko figure. And that's actually something that we're contemplating for Cash Grab, is having like a Funko Nurkish and a Funko Cecil. And you'll find very good quality ones on Etsy, and you have those limited to maybe like 1 to 5 each. And people will like those too, because they collect them. I mean, I rail on them a lot, but I own 4 of them, to be honest, because I just think they're cool. So I like Roger Rabbit. There's Zero Rabbit thing. So the only Funko Pop figures I have the whole line of the Roger Rabbit movie. That's it. But I have them because I just think it's neat. It's part of the memorabilia. So that's another one to keep in mind.
Yes, a couple of people had asked me, they're like, "Are you going to do a Funko Pop of Sporkman?" I'm like,
yeah.
I am not a Funko Pop person. I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter.
I only own one. And that's actually Han Solo. Someone got it for me for Christmas as a coworker, and I really like it. But other than that, I'm not a really big fan. But I mean, if people like them, it's an idea to throw around. I'm like, I would rather have a nice 12-inch Sporkman figure versus a Funko Pop.
Right. Now, so we've actually analyzed this. Do you know what the appeal of Funko Pops are? There's a reason why they're popular.
No.
And other figures like Mighty Mugs are not. So the reason why Funko Pops are popular, and don't get me wrong, I do think it's going to be like Beanie Babies. I think it's a bubble that's just going to explode at some point. But the reason why they have long-term potential is because every Funko Pop figure is in the scale of the other Funko Pop figures. And that's important because it means that it's easy to display and make them uniform. So you can cross over every brand you can think of. You can have your Spider-Man Funko Pop in box next to your Predator Funko Pop in box. And they're going to be of approximately the same scale, the same height, and the same packaging. And because of that uniformity, that's why they all look good together. Even the only time that they're out of scale is obviously when you have like King Kong with them, and then the King Kong is like extra size, where it's like a lot bigger than the other pops. But that's when we talk to people, that's why they like them, because they say that they can put them in their display cabinet and they look good together because they're all scaled. Now that doesn't explain why other, like Funko, they also own the what's it called? I think it's the not Super 8, but it's the Reaction. They own the Reaction line too, and those are those like old Kenner Star Wars figure types. That one did not take off as much, and we think it's because of the packaging. The idea that they're all on blister cards, which means that you can't just prop them up. You actually have to pin them to the wall or do something with them. Whereas Pops, you can stack. You don't have to worry about displaying them and doing anything fancy. As long as you have shelf space, they fit right in. So yeah, people don't like them, but there is a market for Funko Pops.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. The uniformity of it.
That would also go into it the same as why Star Wars figures do really well and stuff like that too, because they're all relatively the same size.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll notice that action figures that tend to, I don't want to say don't do well, but don't do as well, are ones that are kind of out of scale. So your typical action figure sizes are your like 3 3/4, 6-inch, and your 12-inch. And typically, if you go anywhere between or above it gets you guys into kind of dangerous territory. The only exceptions to that I can think of, and this is true for me for sure, is like Figure Arts. Figure Arts are on a sliding scale. They hover around 6 inch, but some of them are smaller. But Figure Arts figures are fantastic, and I think that they're really doing a good job by cornering the scale that they're in, and they're just really good because they're hyper articulated. So that's what you're getting when you're paying for a Figure Arts figure, and those are out of Japan, but those are great.
Sorry about that, Terry. I apologize, sir. Go ahead.
No. I'm actually. I'm gonna start writing down a lot of questions for Tim later.
We should probably get to, Tim, I'm kind of coming up with all these different ideas of streams that I would love to have. And merchandising is another question, another one that I really think would be a good stream to have for people. Because I want to do a crowdfunding stream with Ben Jones and John again. And then maybe we can do one on like merchandising ideas for people to kind of think about for their campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely. Merchandising is fun. I mean, that was our bread and butter for the longest time. There's aspects of it I love, and there's aspects of it I truly hate. But the whole thing is interesting. It's almost like a science in and of itself. A lot of it is consumer psychology, and a lot of it is what is hot at the moment. Because that's the funny thing is, honestly, when it comes to things like Pops, the reason why that bubble is going to burst has nothing to do with the quality of the product. It's just longevity is a lot of times determined by how stimulated the public is. People just get tired of things after a while, to be honest. That's all that boils down to. One of the things that my wife and I do, one of the things my wife and I do is because we're Disney theme park fans, so not so much the movies, but we like the theme parks a lot. So every year, I know Mark comes with us. Like, that's how I pay him. I pay him in Disney theme park tickets. But one thing that we think is really neat that Disney does is literally almost everything at the Disney store and the theme parks, everything is limited. So when you see something one year that you want, you have to get it because there's a good chance it will not be there the next year that it comes around. And what that does, there's a reason why on eBay, there's its own category. It's called Disney Anna. And that's the category, the subcategory under collectibles for Disney-themed merchandise. By limiting how much production run of something they have, they almost make everything a collectible. So what that means is that you can buy like a Winnie the Pooh plush one year, and the next year you go back to the theme park and you're going to see another Winnie the Pooh plush, but if you compare them, they're different. And it kind of depends on how much of a hardcore collector you are. There might be a particular run that has a face that people like and sold out really quickly, and that's what people are going to go for. But yeah, merchandising is a very interesting topic because there's a lot of factors that play more a role into how well merchandise sells than the actual product or the actual movie, for example.
Well, and the Barry, where I was felt like chiming in here is it's like, take, as bad as it sounds, not to knock on you, Tim, take My Hero Macadamia, as popular of a comic as it is, even the biggest problem you're going to have is how many times that thing was reprinted to fill the demand.
Right.
Because of that, like, had it only gone that initial run and then never got more, no more was made, then it would be such a high demand comic right now and then possibly 20 years from now. But because they kept reprinting it, whereas, the Disney products don't get remade. Once it's made, it's done. You know what I mean? Once it's sold out, it's done. They're not going to remake that particular one. So that helps drive the market for that particular, whatever collectible it is.
Yes and no. It's a little bit different for comics because your collector, they pay very close attention to the detail. So it's not so much the comic that is the commodity, it's the print run. So for example, the two versions of My Hero Macadamia that are worth the most are the first printing and the second printing. The second printing, I argue, is actually worth more than the first because it was actually a lower print run than the original. And the reason they did that was they wanted to make sure that it wasn't a fluke, that okay, there's a lot of demand for this book that we sold out of, but we don't want to go overboard, so let's just print this much. And it was actually lower than the first printing. They sold out of that, and obviously for the third, fourth, and fifth printing, they went big with their numbers. So whenever I'm pointing it out to people, I even say for the first printing, there's actually a printing error that is in the book, or that we know is in the book. So the further editions are actually of a better quality than the first edition. But that's the thing that collectors look for, is that those types of details. It's kind of like this. So Amazing Fantasy, which is Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man. Like, that book has been reprinted several times, but it also doesn't water down the original. If you have the original Amazing Fantasy, that is a lot of money.
Oh yeah, and by the way, congratulations on being on your 5th printing on that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's really exciting. We're really happy that people like that book.
Like I said, when I went at the LCS, I was like, I gotta get this book because I've heard such good things about it. Nope, sold out. Mother.
Yeah, and you can buy it online now too. So the 5th printing we think is pretty stable in terms of where we are at the moment. So.
That's where I'll get a 5th printing to read and get like the 2nd printing for collecting.
Now I will tell you guys this. So again, talking about how merchandising is an interesting thing. This just shows like how closely people pay attention to this stuff. So at our first show of the year, My Hero Macadamia had just been out for about 2 weeks, and it sold out very quickly. So on eBay, it was going for about $15. Well, we were at the show, and Friday came and went. And on Saturday, we had this retailer come up to us, and he said, "Do you still have any more My Hero Macadamia?" And I said, "Yeah, we have a couple of copies back here." And he said, "How much are you selling them for?" And I said, "Well, we're selling them for $10, and it's signed by both the writer and artist because we're both here." And the guy says, "Great, that's way cheaper than what they're going for right now on eBay." So I was like, that's weird, because I just looked on eBay, and it was going for like 15. So I looked, and they were going for like 35. So overnight, they increased by about $20.
Wow.
So Mark and I were like, what happened overnight to make the price go up? So we were looking on Twitter, just browsing it, and what happened was Richard answered a question. Someone asked him, "Is Jawbreakers 1 or Jawbreakers Lost Souls the first appearance of Jawbreakers?" And Richard said, "Neither. The first appearance of the Jawbreakers is My Hero Macadamia #1." And that did it. Someone paid attention, and whoever was selling that comic for $15 on eBay jacked the price up by $20, because he knew that canonically there was something very interesting. So a very small detail in there. And so we learned very quickly, like, oh, okay. So as far as like speculators, markets, and collectors are concerned, those factors determine a lot of that. So just as a word of advice, if you are a collector out there and that interests you, you might want to pick up Black Ops #2 next week. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Already got my order in. As soon as you announced that it was, I had it reserved at my LCS. Same thing with, Matthew and Rags. They got them. Well, Punchline got them all reserved already.
Oh, that's the other thing too. So if anyone hasn't checked it out, Matt Weldon's Punchline, that thing is beautiful. I had the privilege, John Malin and I were with Matt at the recent Bell County Comic Con, and his art is phenomenal. I expect him to definitely, if they're willing to have him, that guy really needs to be working for one of the top 3 companies in a full-time position. He's really, really good.
Oh, no, that's definitely like... The art's amazing in the comic. If I had the money, you best believe I would have backed Punchline.
Yeah, and I love the he just I actually hit him up when he released that Versima and Rags and Thump poster. I'm like, do you mind if I color this? Because just as practicing coloring and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, because I love that work, that poster. I'm like, and I can't wait for it to be finished. So
yeah, and the one thing that I know we want to do is Brian and I have been talking. So the Rags creator, he really wants to make a Punchline Rags USAGI crossover, and I said, just have at it. Like that looks amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what you guys do with that.
Yeah, I really, I'm really looking for the second part of GI. The thumb
Black Ops, yeah.
Black Ops. Yeah, sorry, my brain's not functioning right now.
Nah, it's all bunnies. It all crosses over.
And I was actually going to I was actually going to tell you. So in our next Sporkman issue, after we're done with Japan, the next one's called Sporkman: The Great White Threat because it's based on the shark theme and stuff like that. So we are actually going to have a scientist working on gene splicing with sharks, and she's actually going to have a bunny looking like Thump in a cage.
Oh no!
I didn't know if you would be okay with that. That'd be like
fine.
A pet rabbit.
I don't care at all. I've had this talk with several people before, but I said that even bad coverage, any press is good press. And there was one guy who he might actually follow some of you guys, but he's a complete troll. I'm not going to give him the honor of even mentioning his name, but
I think I knew who you're talking about.
Yeah, he drew Captain America. He does not like me, by the way. So he drew Captain America punching Thump, and like Thump's head is like exploding with his like eyeballs coming out.
What?
And I was like, I know, and I was like, I'm not even mad. My character was living in your brain rent free for 3 hours while you were drawing that. That to me is worth the price of admission. So you have at it. That's fine.
That's hilarious. It really is.
Yeah. I am going to head out of here because I need to go grab something to eat. And I'm actually going to be on with Weaponized Nerd Rage later on this evening. But anyway, it was nice, again, talking to you guys again. And I'm sure we'll be talking to each other through our group chats. And Terry, it was nice to meet you too. I hope one day to do work with Alterna. I've talked to... I think Peter Samedi actually follows me, and he's a nice guy, so I'm looking forward to it. So congratulations. I think that's really cool, and good luck. And it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Same here, man.
Absolutely. Okay. Have a good one, guys.
See you, Tim.
Bye.
So Terry, I know we're gonna chat more tomorrow on our stream, but I did want to ask you, what is like what's your next projects after this is done? What's your next step?
Well, I have a few things coming up. I mean, I've got, of course, the second volume of Wicked Righteous is going to be kicking off later at the end of the year, and then I have a book coming out next Wednesday in comic shops called Disposable Legends.
Okay.
It's published by a company out of the UK called T-Pub, and it's basically a sci-fi human cloning is legal, so you could get like Muhammad Ali to fight Bruce Lee, put it on TV, and they fight to the death, that kind of thing. But then the clones, they start to revolt. So that's the elevator pitch of it. But it was fun. It's a 6-issue limited series, and it's going to be in a collected trade, of course, at the end. But that one's coming out every month, and it's going to be me. Lucas, the same guy who did Wicked Righteous, he's doing pencils and inks on it. And then we, to keep with the bunny theme, Liz Buenaventura, she does the colors on Stabbity Bunny. She's doing the colors on on that one. And then same letter, Brandon De Stefano. And then I got a few short stories and then a few projects that I can't really talk about yet, but so I'm busy for the next 2 years at least. Then we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Word. Like, no, the funny thing is I actually have all right, so I recently quit smoking, like Tuesday of this past week. And so my face is all sorts of like zits everywhere. Dude, no. Quitting cigarettes is like one of the hardest things I've like to do ever. But like The Wicked Righteous is actually one of the comics that I have on display for when my face goes back to normal and I use the webcam again. So had to brag about that for real.
Very cool, man. Yeah, no, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, book 6 was kind of, I don't know how other writers do it or anything, but book 6 was that's how I started off with the story pitch, was this is going to happen at the end. I know how it's going to start. I just need to, fill everything else in. But the first image that came to my head when I started writing it was that book 6, the last little bit there, and then just going from there. And it's been exciting seeing how people are taking on with it.
Oh, dude, like that last scene on the aircraft carrier, man. It's like it just from what I've read throughout the book, like it completely contrasts with the rest of the story. It's like, ooh, now it's like I said, that's what made me really want to get the rest of them. Though by the sound of it, I'm going to have to spend the rest of what money I have on getting Black Ops issue 2 now. Curse you, Tim.
Well, all that cigarette money you're not spending, you can spend on comics now.
Pretty much. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun, and just the next arc, the 7 through 12 that we're already started on now. It's really we're kind of looking at it as like because I'm more of a Star Wars person. Sorry, but I think of it as like my Empire Strikes Back, because I'm really just anything and everything that I can think of that I felt like the first volume was missing. It's going in there, and it's been fun so far.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing is you may be a Star Wars guy, but the thing is, there's no real straight Star Wars or Star Trek guys. We all watch it all.
Yeah.
And we all get pissed when, even if it is the quote-unquote enemy franchise, even when they get screwed. Like, I'm a hardcore Star Trek guy. I was still pissed about The Last Jedi. I've still yet to see it. I have my parents' copy in my room right now. I'm looking at it, and I'm just, like, giving it the middle finger because I'm like, oh, God, fuck you, Ryan. But upside, he got fired. His trilogy is not happening at all.
Saw that.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to step out here. Terry, we'll talk tomorrow. Then I will send you the link and everything. Okay?
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Well, if that's the case, then I guess we'll just end the stream because apparently it's just down to Sport, Terry, and I.
All right, guys. Well, Terry, I'll speak with you tomorrow then. Okay?
All right, man. I'll talk to you then.
Night.
All right, folks. Real quick, Terry. I guess give your final pitch.
Okay, Wicked Righteous. It's on Kickstarter right now. We have about 12 days left until the campaign ends. We're about 161% funded right now on the third stretch goal. So if you check out any of my social media, it's at MayoTL, MAYOTL. I posted up the different tiers, everything that's involved. There's a lot of cool stuff. Got some pinup art from cover artists from the Ninja Turtles, from G.I. Joe. They're going to be making different character sketches. You get free sketches from the artist Lucas Romero. Got a 1 tier in there where you could actually be in the next story arc, book 7 through 12. T-shirts. The only thing I don't have is Funko Pop. So if you want to take a look at the social media, you can find something that fits you.
Alrighty. And of course, folks, as always, I'm your host, Bob Dolbot. And you can follow me on Twitter at Brainiac420. And please, if you could, help support the channel a little bit so I can buy more comics by, supporting to my Patreon. Post that in the chat real quick. And yeah, I think with that, we're going to go ahead and call it an evening. Later, folks.